The People serious role-play game was developed and designed by me, but also by people who do research on Polish-Belarusian border, because right now we are having humanitarian crisis there, and there are many people engaged in the situation. So this game is an outcome of a collaboration with the people who either live there, do research there, or somehow participate in the situation. Once upon a time, there were people who wished for freedom and safety more than anything else. Those people, they came to Belarus believing that they can easily come to safe haven, meaning European Union. Some of them didn't even know that there is, let's say, border to be passed. They were told, they were promised safe passage, actually by a Belarusian president who invested a lot in social media, and through social media, people were informed that they can go to Belarus and then move to European Union. Who are those people? Mostly those who came from Middle East, then Africa, refugees, asylum seekers, people with different motivations, sometimes safety, sometimes running away from war, from environmental problems, sometimes looking for better economic environment, different motivations. But those people, they came to Belarus, and then they tried to move to Poland, but they got stuck because the border was closed. So those people, they started to pass through very dangerous forests. There's a huge forest comparable to jungle. So every time a refugee was spotted by a guard, they were thrown away to the Belarus. And it was like ping pong. People were just pushing from one side to another. It's still happening. And we do not have political, legal solutions for these situations because media or humanitarian aid is not allowed to enter the border zone. So there are people who are sentenced to help of residents of the zone. And so the people, when I say the people, I mean those who in the forest, those who left the forest, or those who passed away, because also there were fatalities. There were people who lost their life because they wanted to change something. And in the border, we do not say refugees, we say the people, because it's politically dangerous to speak out loud that you try to help refugees. It's illegal because you can be accused for human trafficking. So I thought, what can we do? How to change this weak situation, how to talk about it, and how to distinguish who's the enemy, what's good, what's bad, how can we contribute, especially those who do not live there. So me and people engaged, we decided to develop a role-play game for the time to make others, meaning citizens of our country, aware of the problem and to make them reflect on the situation and start discussing how to change it, or whether do we accept we do give consent for the situation as it is. So again, the people has a goal to reflect on the complexity of the refugee crisis environment and trigger actions or reactions. The goal in the game for players is to support or block as many asylum seekers as possible according to hidden motivation. I will explain more in a while. And people in the game, they have different roles, mostly roles of citizens in the border zone, inhabitants. So basically, when you start to play a game, you get a card, you get a new personality, and you have to take this personality. Those people, the roles, they're interconnected. So you may be a border guard, but your daughter may be a researcher, and you may also have different motivations, either to support refugees or to block them. And it depends, because it's random which motivation, which role do you get, as in the real life. So basically, in the game, people we use board. This is a board showing the forest, the national forest, and there are different cards. People, they play their roles and they use cards. Cards equal different actions. So some of those cards, they are supportive for refugees who are coming, and some are not. One player is responsible for refugees and has almost no agency as it is in real life, because the game is a kind of translation from the real life situation into the game to make people understand. So also the refugees coming through the board, they have limited resources. and every round they are consuming resources. So if you can see this is kind of a simulation of the border. So we have like groups of refugees coming. You see the like people, there are cards, because they place cards on the board and they discuss together. It's kind of chaotic because there's like no order, not like first, second, third person puts the cards. No, everyone put cards at the same time, because that's how it is. It's chaos. People, they don't have time for creating strategies, and of course they argue, they can interact, they can block each other by calling the police, calling media, organizing happenings. So these are all cards, and at the same time they influence refugees coming by placing cards. uh, so basically it shows the interconnection between citizens, but also the relations between citizens and refugees, and the big chaos that takes place in the border. Mm. What's important, if a group of refugees reaches the end of the forest, then we discover their story, because each of those groups of refugees has a story, and the story is hidden. Only if the group is saved, then we can read the story out loud. If the group doesn't make it, meaning if they consume all the resources, then we do not discover the story, never, because that's how it is. Without contribution to those people, we won't ever know who are they. So methodology, how do, because I would like to share like basic observations from the gameplay. I have played the game already with more than 50 people or 60 people, but this is based on the group of 38 students. So it was designed as game-based intervention. Here we have 5 groups, 5 gameplays with 38 students, age 16 plus in total. The structure of the gameplay and the research was briefing, gameplay, and debriefing. We had focus groups and interviews, and finally surveys, but here I do not include outcomes of those surveys. So the main insights after the debriefing with students who took part in the gameplay. Firstly, of course, about the structure, we talked about feelings, about learnings and experience, and future, like meta level. So people talked a lot about learning, that learning was very important for them. They discovered a lot. They talked about activism, that they would like to contribute. They were looking for ways to contribute, and they were thinking how to solve the problem. We were discussing what should be replaced, what new elements should be added to the situation. So we were talking about game design, and we were transferring it into meta level. So let's say, do I have it? No. So let's say people were talking, I would like to have a card of humanitarian aid. I would like to, I wanted to be able to place the card of humanitarian aid on the board. Why there's no card like this? Because there's no humanitarian aid on the border. That's the answer. So together we were looking for ways to change the game and ways to change the situation into fair, into like more acceptable for us. So that was the concept. Some of the people declared that they would like to change something. They would like to, for instance, go there or speak more in social media. So these were like basic discoveries, basic insights after the gameplays. Yeah, but also the last thing I would like to say are the dangers. The two dangers I find in the project. The first one is helplessness. So sometimes there were people who felt like really depressed after the gameplay, because there are many negative emotions in the gameplay, and I do accept negative emotions. They are important, and we have to find a way to digest it, but we cannot avoid them. So sometimes people, they're helpless, and it's very important during the debriefing to talk about like possible ways of intervention and engagement. And the second thing, interesting, however scary, is Zimbardo effect. So many people were just following rules, and during the debriefing they were telling, for instance, I was kicking out refugees. And I was thinking, how can I be the most efficient in that? And normally I wouldn't do it, but at that time these were my my orders, my duties. So I do not feel guilty. So people like they have this distance, and they really do not feel that there's something wrong. And at that point, sometimes we have discussion. Why didn't we break the rules? Why did we follow the rules of the game? Because we were not forced, like nobody could check us during the gameplay. So this is about the game. And so that's the story. I wanted to say that it's possible to, like, more details, references, etc. you can find in the paper. Also, it's possible to play the game, get the English version, read it or play it, or because it's my volunteer. I'm a volunteer in this project, kind of like it's besides my duties. So if you'd like to play the game in your country, it's possible. Or if you like to read the scenario, it's still possible. Well, what else? Here are my contact details. Also, I'm in the stage where I'm looking for a PhD opportunity. So if you know anything interesting or place where I could do it, or I don't know, some tips, I'm open to discuss it. Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you very much.